galaxy was wide, full of stars and full of voices. For Daniel Hayes, a human engineer from Earth, the stars often felt beautiful but lonely. He worked as a ship mechanic and sometimes as a pilot for hire. His jobs took him to many strange places, yet his life was mostly quiet. He fixed machines, flew routes, delivered cargo, and kept moving. It had been 5 years since he left Earth. In those years, Daniel had met many aliens, spoken in dozens of languages through translators, and seen wonders he never thought possible. He had seen cities floating above gas giants, forests that grew in zero gravity, and oceans where living ships swam freely. And yet, in the silence of his small ship, he was always alone. The trade hub of GalacticPrime was different from anywhere he had been before. It was a massive station built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. From the outside, it looked like a giant rock hanging in the void. From the inside, it was alive with color. Lights decorated the ceilings, shops crowded the streets, and the air buzzed with voices of 100 species. Daniel had come there for one reason: to buy parts for his ship. His old freighter, the Wayfarer, needed new stabilizers and a fuel regulator. Without them, he could not continue his next job. As he walked through the market district, Daniel noticed something strange. Between the stalls of ship parts, weapons, and alien foods, there were also stalls selling companions. He had heard of them before. Some species, especially those who valued social bonds, offered companionship services. These companions were not slaves nor prisoners. They were volunteers who signed agreements to live and travel with someone of another species. They offered company, conversation, and help in exchange for protection, pay, and the chance to see the stars. At first, Daniel only glanced at the stalls. Companions did not interest him. He was used to being alone, and he did not want someone slowing him down. But as he walked, he kept hearing laughter. It was light, cheerful, and musical. It floated above the noise of the crowd like sunlight cutting through clouds. Curious, Daniel followed the sound. He stopped at a stall marked with glowing letters: Certified Companions, Loyal Partners for the Long Journey. Behind the counter stood a trader, a tall insect-like alien with shimmering wings. But Daniel's attention was caught by the one sitting near the front. She was small compared to most aliens around her, a little shorter than Daniel. Her skin had a soft silver glow, like polished stone under moonlight. Her eyes were wide and bright, a mix of blue and green, sparkling as if they held tiny stars. And she was laughing, not a nervous laugh, not a fake laugh, but a real one, full of life. Daniel paused. He could not help staring. The trader noticed his interest and buzzed softly. Human traveler. You are looking for parts, yes? But maybe also for company? You see her? The trader gestured toward the girl. Her name is Leora. She is of the Eliari. They are cheerful ones, strong in spirit, quick to learn. She would be a good match for a human. Daniel frowned. I'm not looking for company. Just ship parts. Leora turned toward him then, her smile wide and warm. Hello, stranger. You look tired. Long flight? Her voice was gentle but filled with energy like a song. Daniel blinked. Most companions waited quietly for buyers to approach them. This one spoke first. Yes. Long flight. Then you must be hungry, Leora said quickly, standing up. The food court here has amazing starfruit stew. Or maybe you like meat skewers. Humans like meat, right? Daniel felt his lips twitch in surprise. She was talking to him as if they were already friends. He shook his head. I didn't come here for food or for this. Leora tilted her head, her glowing hair shifting like silver threads. You came for parts. But parts don't talk. Parts don't laugh with you. Parts don't make the long nights less empty. Her words hit him harder than expected. Daniel's chest tightened. She could not possibly know how lonely he really was. The trader leaned forward. Human traveler, she is cheerful, yes? She will brighten your journeys. Many humans have bought Eliari companions. They learn languages fast, they cook, they fix small things, and they never complain. Very good deal. Daniel hesitated. He did not want to buy someone like cargo. That felt wrong. But he also knew companions were volunteers. They chose this life, and he had been alone too long. How much? Daniel asked at last, his voice low. The trader's wings flickered with delight. They spoke quickly, naming a fair price, including contract terms. Daniel barely listened. His eyes were still on Leora, who now hummed softly, tapping her fingers against her knees like she was playing invisible music. Do you always smile like that? Daniel asked her. Leora grinned wider. Of course. Why not smile? The stars are wide, the universe is full of surprises, and I am alive. That is reason enough. Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. Without thinking further, he agreed to the contract. The process was simple. Leora's wristband, a silver band of Eliari design, was updated with Daniel's ship registry. That meant she was now officially his companion. She would live on his ship, help him, and travel with him until either of them chose to end the agreement. When the paperwork finished, Leora turned to him, her eyes shining. So, Captain Daniel, right? Shall we go see our ship? Daniel raised an eyebrow. Our ship? Yes, of course, Leora said, skipping ahead with surprising energy. If I live there, it is ours. Don't you agree? Daniel sighed, half amused, half unsettled. You are very cheerful. Always, she said, spinning once in the air, her silver hair catching the light. Cheer makes the darkness smaller. You'll see. Walking back through the station, Daniel noticed how easily she moved. She greeted strangers with a smile, laughed at small things, and even teased a grumpy merchant into smiling back. It was as if her presence created light around her. When they reached the Wayfarer, Daniel felt a small spark of pride. His ship was old, yes, and worn from years of travel, but it was sturdy. He expected Leora to complain about the tight corridors and simple rooms. Instead, she clapped her hands in delight. Oh, it's perfect. Small but cozy, like a home that wants to fly. Daniel stared. That's one way to describe it. Leora ran her fingers along the walls, humming again. Every ship has a heart, Daniel. This one feels steady. She must like you. She? Daniel repeated. Yes, all ships are alive in their own way. Don't you feel it? Daniel shook his head. A ship is just machines. Metal, wires, fuel lines. Leora smiled knowingly. Maybe. Or maybe you've been alone too long to hear her heartbeat. Her words stayed with him as he guided her to the living quarters. She picked the smallest cabin without complaint, placing her small bag on the bed. Then she turned to him, eyes bright. When do we leave, Captain? She asked. Tomorrow, Daniel said. I still need to finish buying parts. Then tonight we celebrate, Leora declared. You and I, new friends, new journey, Daniel frowned. Celebrate? How? With food, of course, Leora said with a laugh. I will cook. Don't worry, I learned human recipes last month. Daniel's eyes widened slightly. You can cook human food? Of course, Leora said proudly. Spicy noodles, roasted potatoes, even pancakes. But no promises, they might taste a little. Eliari. For the first time in years, Daniel chuckled. He had not expected to laugh today. That night, as stars drifted outside the station windows, Leora cooked in the small galley. The smell of strange spices mixed with familiar ones. Daniel sat at the table watching her move with light steps, humming all the while. When she placed the food before him, it looked odd. Purple noodles with golden sauce. But when he tasted it, he blinked in surprise. It was good. Different, but good. Leora watched him closely, eyes shining. Well? Daniel swallowed, then nodded. It's not bad. She clapped her hands in joy. Not bad is good. Next time it will be better. You'll see. Daniel studied her across the table. He had bought her only hours ago, expecting silence or awkwardness. Instead, she had filled his ship with laughter and light. For the first time in years, Daniel felt maybe, just maybe, he was not so alone anymore. And though he did not yet know it, this cheerful companion would change his life forever. The next morning, GalacticPrime was already awake before Daniel and Leora rose from their bunks. The great asteroid station never truly slept. Markets stayed open at all hours, and ships came and went from its vast docking rings like bees around a hive. Daniel was up first. He liked the quiet hours when the corridors of the station were half empty, and the noise from the market stalls was still a faint hum. He was used to moving fast and alone, grabbing what he needed and returning to his ship before anyone bothered him. But this time, he was not alone. When Leora joined him, she practically bounced at his side, her silver hair catching the lights as they walked. She carried a small pouch across her shoulder and hummed softly, as if even the routine act of walking to the market was a reason for joy. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Do you always hum? Yes, Leora answered brightly. It makes the steps shorter. The steps are the same length, she laughed. Not when you feel them as music. Then the path is lighter. Daniel shook his head. not sure whether to call her foolish or brilliant. Still, something about her energy kept his own mood from sinking too low. He found himself almost enjoying the trip back through the colorful streets. They collected the final ship parts without trouble, though Daniel had to bargain hard. Leora stood beside him during the negotiations, her eyes wide, her face open as if fascinated by every word. When the merchant tried to cheat Daniel by doubling the price, Leora spoke up suddenly. "That's too much. Even I know stabilizers don't cost that many credits." The merchant blinked in surprise at her bold tone. "Eliari girl, this is business." "Stay quiet." Leora leaned forward, her cheerful smile not fading. "Business is fair trade, not lies. If you lie, I will laugh at you until the whole market hears." Daniel almost choked, but to his shock, the merchant turned pale. Eliari laughter was known in some cultures as a kind of curse or mockery, and no merchant wanted to be laughed at by a cheerful Eliari in front of a crowd. The man quickly dropped the price back to fair value. As they walked away, Daniel glanced at Leora. "You actually helped," she giggled. "Of course!" Smiles are not only for joy. Sometimes they scare cheats away. Daniel almost smiled himself but hid it. She was unpredictable but undeniably effective. Back aboard the Wayfarer, Daniel worked to install the new stabilizers. He expected Leora to stay out of the way. Instead, she crouched beside him, handing him tools as if she had done it for years. "You know how to use these?" Daniel asked, suspicious. "Not yet," she said honestly. "But I watch and I learn. Eliari are quick learners. Besides, fixing things is fun." "Fun," Daniel repeated. "It's grease, wires, and burned fingers," she grinned. "Yes, but when it works again, it feels like bringing something back to life." Her words echoed in Daniel's mind as he tightened the last bolt. He had never thought of repairs that way. To him, fixing ships was just survival. But to her it was joy. By evening, the ship was ready. The stabilizers purred smoothly, and the fuel regulator showed green on the control screen. Daniel sat in the pilot's chair, preparing the course. Leora stood behind him, hands clasped with excitement. "Where do we go first, Captain?" she asked. Daniel keyed in the coordinates. "A small mining colony near Dralos 9. They need engine parts. I deliver, I get paid, and we move on." Leora tilted her head. "Mining colony. Is it pretty?" "Not really. Dust, rock, and more dust. Then we'll make it pretty," she said with a wink. Daniel gave her a sideways look. "How exactly?" "By smiling," she replied simply. The ship lifted from Valari Prime, sliding through the vast docking bay doors into the black ocean of space. The stars unfolded before them, bright and endless. Daniel always loved this moment. The quiet hum of the engines, the first step into the void. But this time it felt different. Beside him, Leora gasped with delight, pressing her hands to the glass. "Oh, the stars are dancing tonight. Look at them, Daniel. Each one like a candle in a dark hall. Do you see?" Daniel had flown through the stars for years, but he had never thought of them as dancing. He looked anyway, and for a moment through her eyes, he almost believed they did. Days passed as they crossed the trade route toward Dralos 9. Life aboard the Wayfarer slowly changed. Daniel was used to silence, days of working alone, eating simple meals and sleeping in the hum of the ship. Leora changed everything. She talked constantly, asking questions about Earth, about humans, about his childhood. She wanted to know what rain felt like, what music sounded like without translators, and why humans called their planet home. At first, Daniel gave short answers. He was not used to sharing. But Leora never grew discouraged. She laughed at his gruff replies, hummed while cooking, and even decorated her small cabin with drawings made from spare wires and cloth. One evening, Daniel walked into the galley to find her standing on a chair, stringing colored wires across the ceiling. "What are you doing?" he asked, confused. "Making stars," she said simply, pointing to the glowing wires. "So the ship can have its own sky inside." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "That's ridiculous." "Maybe," she admitted with a grin. "But ridiculous things make the heart lighter." And strangely, when the lights flickered like tiny constellations above their heads, Daniel found himself staring at them longer than he expected. Not everything was smooth. Daniel was a private man, and Leora's energy sometimes felt overwhelming. One night, when he tried to work on navigation charts, she leaned over his shoulder, asking endless questions. "Why do you choose this route? What if we go that way instead? What are these red lines?" Are those danger zones? Oh, did you ever get lost? Daniel slammed his pen down. Leora, enough. I need quiet. She froze, her smile fading for the first time. For a moment, Daniel felt guilty, but he forced himself to look away. Silence followed. Then gently, she touched his arm. I'm sorry, Daniel. I forget sometimes that humans need quiet like Eliari need laughter. Her voice was soft, sincere. Daniel sighed, running a hand over his face. I didn't mean to snap. I've been alone so long, I'm not used to all this noise. Leora smiled faintly, her cheer returning. Then I will teach you. A little noise is good. Too much silence hurts the heart. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Maybe. On the fourth day, trouble came. While passing near an asteroid belt, a small pirate vessel appeared on their scanners. Daniel cursed under his breath. The ship was fast, armed, and closing distance. He prepared the engines for a quick escape. Leora, strap in. This might get rough. To his surprise, she did not panic. Instead, she smiled calmly. Don't worry, Captain. We'll figure this out together. Daniel glanced at her, stunned. Most companions would be terrified, maybe even screaming, but Leora's voice was steady, her eyes bright. As the pirate ship fired a warning shot, Daniel pushed the Wayfarer into a sharp dive. Leora gripped the seat, laughing, not from madness but from thrill. Faster, Daniel. Show them how humans fly. Her laughter filled the cockpit, strangely giving him strength. Daniel's hands moved with new confidence. He dodged blasts, twisted through asteroid shadows, and finally hit the engines to full power. The pirate ship, unable to follow through the narrow rocks, fell behind. Within minutes, the Wayfarer was safe again. Daniel leaned back, panting. That was too close. Leora clapped her hands. That was amazing. You fly like the stars themselves push you forward. Daniel stared at her. You weren't scared? She tilted her head. Of course I was. But fear is smaller when you trust the one beside you. Her words sank deep into him. He realized then that her cheerfulness was not simple foolishness. It was strength. That night as they rested, Daniel found himself watching Leora across the galley table. She was humming softly again, fixing a broken spoon with surprising care. He thought back to the day he bought her. He had expected silence, obedience, maybe a little conversation. Instead, she had filled his ship with life. For the first time, Daniel wondered if this strange, cheerful Eliari girl was not just a companion, but something far more important. And though he would never admit it aloud, he found himself waiting for her laughter now, as if it kept the darkness away. The long journey ahead no longer felt so empty. The mining colony on Dralos 9 appeared ahead like a faint sparkle against the endless dark. From orbit, the planet looked like a scarred stone. Dusty plains stretched across its surface, broken by deep cracks where miners had carved tunnels. The colony itself was nothing more than a cluster of domes and towers, glowing weakly against the shadows. Daniel adjusted the ship's controls as the Wayfarer approached the landing zone. Not much to look at, he muttered. Beside him, Leora pressed her hands to the glass. It is beautiful, she said softly. Daniel raised a brow. Dust and rock? That's beautiful? She nodded. Yes, because even here life survives. Look, those lights mean people are working, hoping, dreaming. That is beautiful. Daniel almost smiled. He had expected her to complain about the bleak colony. Instead, she found beauty in survival itself. That was Leora, always turning shadows into light. The landing went smoothly, and the colony workers greeted Daniel warmly. He delivered the engine parts, signed the contract, and received payment. Business done, he was ready to leave again. But Leora had other plans. Daniel, can we walk through the colony first? She asked, eyes wide with curiosity. He sighed. It's just dust and miners. All the more reason to see it, she said cheerfully. Daniel reluctantly agreed. Together they walked through the dusty corridors of the settlement. Miners passed them with tired eyes, their clothes covered in gray powder. The air smelled of metal and burnt rock. Yet everywhere they went, Leora smiled at people, greeting them as if they were old friends. To Daniel's surprise, the miners smiled back. Some even laughed at her little jokes. For a few moments, the tired colony seemed lighter, as if her joy had spread like sunlight through a window. One old miner even patted Daniel on the back. You've got a good one with you, human. Keep her close. That spirit will outlast machines. Daniel only nodded, but inside he felt something stir. Back aboard the ship, Daniel prepared for departure. The cargo hold was empty now, and the engines hummed with steady power. But before they could leave orbit, the sensors screamed. Daniel's heart sank. A pirate ship. Not the small raider they had escaped before, but a larger, heavily armed vessel. It blocked their path like a wolf in the dark. They must have followed us, Daniel muttered, waiting for the right time. Leora leaned forward, her eyes calm though the alarm blared. Then we faced them. Daniel tightened his jaw. They're stronger than us, faster. If they hit us with a full blast, the Wayfarer won't last long. Then we don't let them hit us, Leora said firmly. Before Daniel could reply, the pirate ship hailed them. The screen flickered, revealing a scarred alien face with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. Human ship, the pirate growled. You escaped last time. Not today. Surrender your vessel. Hand over cargo, credits, and crew. Resist and you die. Daniel's hands clenched the controls. He hated pirates, parasites living off fear, but he knew the odds were against him. Leora stepped forward, smiling brightly. Hello there. You must be tired chasing us all this way. Why not rest? Fighting is boring. Laughing is better. The pirate blinked, confused. What? You heard me? Leora said, her cheerful voice steady. If you fight, maybe you win, maybe you lose. But if you laugh, everyone wins. Did you know Eliari jokes are famous across 3 systems? Want to hear one? Daniel nearly choked. Leora, this isn't the time. But the pirate hesitated, caught off guard. Leora clapped her hands and began telling a silly alien joke about 2 star beasts and a broken translator. Her voice was light, her laugh genuine. To Daniel's shock, a few of the pirate crew in the background actually chuckled. Even the captain growled in irritation, clearly unsettled by her unexpected cheer. That was the opening Daniel needed. While the pirates were distracted, he slammed the engines to full, diving sharply toward the planet's rocky surface. Hold on, he shouted. The Wayfarer roared forward, dodging between jagged cliffs and deep canyons. The pirate ship fired, but Daniel weaved through the terrain, making them miss. Leora gripped the seat tightly, still smiling through the chaos. You're amazing, Daniel, she shouted over the noise. Faster! Show them what humans can do. Her faith fueled him. His hands moved with sharp precision, guiding the ship through paths so narrow most pilots would never dare. The pirate ship tried to follow but clipped a canyon wall, slowing their pursuit. Finally, Daniel spotted a tunnel carved by miners. It was barely wide enough, but he aimed straight for it. Are you crazy? Leora laughed, her eyes sparkling. Probably, Daniel muttered and plunged inside. The Wayfarer shot through the tunnel, sparks flying as the wings scraped stone. Behind them, the pirate ship hesitated. Too large to fit, it was forced to circle above. Moments later, Daniel burst out of the other side of the canyon, free and clear. The pirates were left behind. Daniel slumped back, his hands trembling from the adrenaline. That was insane. Leora leaned closer, her smile warm. That was brilliant. You were brilliant. Daniel looked at her, surprised by the sincerity in her eyes. Slowly, he let out a breath. Maybe she was right. Maybe together, they were stronger than he realized. Later, when the ship was safely away from Dralos 9, Daniel checked the systems. They had taken only minor damage, nothing serious. Relief washed over him. In the galley, Leora was already cooking again, humming cheerfully as if they hadn't just escaped death. Daniel entered, shaking his head. You're impossible. She looked up with a grin. Impossible and cheerful. Best combination. He sat across from her, watching as she stirred the pot. Back there. You weren't afraid at all. Her smile softened. Of course I was. But fear is small when you have someone to trust. I trusted you, Daniel's chest tightened. He had never heard words like that spoken to him before. Not with such faith. Leora set the food down and sat opposite him. Daniel, may I ask something? He nodded cautiously. She leaned forward, her voice quieter now. To you? Am I only something you bought? A contract, or am I more? Daniel froze. Her eyes, usually filled with laughter, now searched his with deep seriousness. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He had never thought about it clearly. Not until now. Leora smiled faintly, waiting. Her cheer had not vanished, but it was softer, like a light burning steady in the dark. And Daniel realized the question was not small. It was the heart of everything between them. That night, long after Leora had gone to her cabin, Daniel sat alone in the cockpit. The stars stretched endlessly outside the window, silent and cold. For years he had believed he was meant to travel alone. That solitude was the price of survival, but now there was laughter on his ship. There was cheer where once there had been silence. There was someone who trusted him, not for his skills, not for his credits, but for who he was. And he did not know how to answer her question, but he knew he had to. Soon. Daniel sat alone in the ship's cockpit after the day's work was done. The stars stretched endlessly outside, quiet and peaceful. Yet inside his chest, a storm of emotions churned. Leora's words from earlier kept echoing in his mind. Am I just something you bought, or do you see me as more? Those words had pierced him more deeply than any pirate's weapon ever could. He had not meant to treat her as a possession, but the truth was there. At the start, that was exactly how he had seen her. A purchase. A service. Something to make his long journeys less lonely. But now, things had changed. Daniel leaned back in his chair, staring at the dark ceiling. Leora's laughter had filled his ship for weeks. Her cheerful spirit had pulled him from silence. Her courage during the pirate attack had saved both their lives. She was no longer just a companion. She was his partner, his equal. The hum of the ship's engine was steady, but Daniel's heart was restless. He knew he had to speak with her. Hiding behind silence would only hurt both of them. He stood, walked through the narrow hall, and stopped outside her small quarters. The door was slightly open, light spilling into the corridor. Inside, Leora sat cross-legged on her bed, humming a tune in her alien language. It was soft, warm, like a stream running over stones. Daniel cleared his throat. Leora, can we talk? She looked up quickly. Her large, bright eyes studied him, cautious but hopeful. She gave a small smile, though not her usual cheerful one. This one carried worry. Of course, Daniel, she said softly. He stepped inside and sat across from her. For a long moment he struggled with his words. Finally he spoke. When I first met you, he began slowly, I thought of you as something I bought, a companion for my lonely trips. I never thought about your feelings. I never thought about what it meant for you. Leora tilted her head slightly, listening. But then, Daniel continued, you changed everything. Your cheer, your hope, your courage. You risked yourself to help me against the pirates. You kept laughing even when things were hard. You made this cold ship feel alive. And you made me feel less alone. You're not just a companion I bought. You're my partner, my friend, my equal. His voice shook slightly at the last words. He wasn't used to speaking so openly. For a moment, Leora was silent. Then her smile widened, bright and genuine, the kind that always lit up her face. I was waiting for you to say that, she said warmly. Daniel blinked. You knew? She laughed softly. I hoped. My people believe that joy is not just for ourselves. It is something we give to others. That's why we serve as companions, not because we are forced, but because we want to share happiness. From the first day I could see you were alone, carrying something heavy inside. I wanted to help lift that weight. But I also wanted you to see me, not just as someone who cooks and cleans, but as someone who walks beside you. Her words struck him deeply. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something warm stirring in his heart. Trust. Connection. Then from now on, he said firmly, you walk beside me, the more bought companion. You're my crew. My partner, Leora's eyes shone. Then we are truly together. The silence that followed was comfortable, full of unspoken trust. For Daniel, it felt like a chain he had not realized was around his heart had finally broken. The next day, the ship received a message from a nearby colony. Their supply lines had been cut off due to pirate raids, and they were running low on medicine and food. Many ships refused to help, fearing attacks. Daniel read the message carefully. His first instinct was caution. He had no duty to risk himself for strangers. But when he looked at Leora, her face was filled with determination. We should help them, she said firmly. If we do nothing, people will suffer. And if we do something, maybe others will see that humans and aliens can work together for good. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. You're right. Let's go. The ship changed course. The journey took several days, and during that time, Daniel and Leora worked side by side to prepare. They loaded supplies into storage pods, checked the navigation charts, and repaired the ship's defenses. It wasn't a warship, but with careful planning, it could handle danger. On the way, Daniel noticed something new in their teamwork. Before, he had always made decisions alone. Now Leora's voice was equal in every choice. She suggested shortcuts, reminded him of safety checks, and even taught him small tricks her people used to outsmart raiders. Daniel realized that with her he was sharper, braver, and less weighed down. When they reached the colony system, trouble came quickly. 3 pirate ships waited near the planet's orbit, scanning all vessels. Daniel's hands tightened on the controls. They're looking for easy targets. Then let's not look easy, Leora replied cheerfully, her eyes shining with calm energy. The pirates hailed them, demanding they surrender their cargo. Daniel and Leora exchanged a glance. Instead of panic, Leora grinned. Time for a little teamwork? Daniel smiled faintly. Always. The battle that followed was tense. Daniel's skillful piloting weaved the ship between asteroids, while Leora monitored the energy shields and launched decoys. At one point, the pirates nearly disabled them. But Leora's quick thinking, redirecting power from the living quarters to the engines, gave them the speed to escape. When a pirate ship blocked their path, Daniel braced for impact. But Leora broadcast her cheerful voice across the channel, pretending to be an entire fleet of reinforcements. The confused pirates panicked, scattering long enough for Daniel to break through. Together they reached the colony and delivered the supplies. The colonists welcomed them with open arms, grateful and amazed. Word spread quickly. A human and his alien partner had risked their lives to save strangers. That evening, as they left the colony, Daniel sat in the cockpit, watching the stars. Leora leaned beside him, her expression calm and happy. You know, Daniel said slowly, I used to think humans had to prove themselves in this galaxy through strength, through power, but now, I think maybe it's through something else. Through joy? Leora asked, smiling. Daniel chuckled. Through partnership, through trust, through people like you. Leora laughed, a bright sound that filled the cockpit. Then maybe I did my job after all. You did more than that, Daniel said quietly. You gave me back something I thought I lost a long time ago. And what is that? She asked. Daniel looked at her, his lips curving into a rare smile. Hope? The story of Daniel and Leora's daring run to the colony spread faster than Daniel could have ever imagined. Ships carried news across nearby systems. Traders repeated the tale in marketplaces, and even distant colonies spoke of the human and alien who had stood together against pirates. At first, Daniel was uneasy about the attention. He had never wanted fame. He only wanted quiet work, long flights, and maybe a little company. But now people were calling them heroes. And more importantly, people were starting to see something new. A human and an alien not bound by trade or contracts, but by true partnership. Leora, of course, embraced it with laughter. See, I told you joy is powerful. It spreads like fire, and soon it warms everyone. Daniel shook his head at her endless optimism, but he could not deny the truth. Trouble brewing. The peace did not last long. Only 2 weeks after leaving the colony, a coded message reached their ship. It came from the same colony they had saved. Daniel played the message, and the desperate voice of the colony leader filled the cockpit. This is Governor Elric of Haven Colony. The pirates have returned. Not just raiders this time, but a larger faction, armed with heavier ships. They demand we surrender everything and accept their control. We have no defenses strong enough. We call upon any allies to help us or we will fall. The message ended with static. Daniel leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. This is worse than before. We can't fight a fleet. We'll be destroyed before we even reach orbit. Leora's eyes were steady, not shaken. Maybe alone, yes. But not if we gather others. Do you not see? Our last act inspired people. If we call for help, maybe they will come. Daniel frowned. You think traders and wanderers will risk their lives against a pirate fleet? They aren't soldiers. They don't need to be soldiers, Leora said firmly. They just need to believe. Believe that together we can stand. And someone must give them that belief. Someone must start it. That someone is us, Daniel studied her. She sat tall, her smile calm but determined. Not naive, never naive. Instead, she radiated a strange courage that lifted even his heavy doubts. Finally, he nodded. Then let's call them. A call to unity, Daniel recorded a message, awkward at first, but then steady. This is Daniel Hayes, human engineer, with my partner Leora of the Valari. Some of you may have heard of us. We do not ask for riches or favors. We ask for help. Haven Colony is under attack. If it falls, the pirates will grow stronger, and more colonies will suffer. But if we stand together, human and alien, trader and farmer, wanderer and worker, we can show them we are not prey. We are people and we protect each other. Meet us at the Haven system. Together we fight. He sent the message into the trade networks. Then came the waiting. Hours passed, then days. Daniel began to doubt. Perhaps no one would come. Perhaps people would listen but remain silent, too afraid. But then, one by one, signals appeared on their scanners. First, a small freighter captain who owed the colony safe passage. Then a pair of alien merchants who claimed they had been inspired by Leora's laughter in the market weeks ago. Then more. Human cargo pilots, alien farmers with old ships, explorers, and even a retired soldier with a battered cruiser. By the time they set course for Haven, more than 30 ships had joined their side. Not a fleet of war, but a fleet of people united. Leora's eyes sparkled with joy. Do you see, Daniel? You gave them hope, and now hope flies with us. The battle for Haven, when they arrived, the sight was grim. 6 pirate ships orbited Haven, their weapons trained on the colony below. Smoke rose from damaged surface structures. The pirates were already preparing their landing crafts. The pirate leader, a scarred alien with a harsh voice, hailed them. Leave now, or share their fate. But instead of fear, the fleet behind Daniel spread across the stars. 30 ships, small and mismatched, but standing together. Daniel pressed the comm. No, we will not leave. This colony is under our protection. The pirate leader laughed cruelly. Protection? With that junk fleet? You'll die first. The battle began. The pirates had stronger weapons and larger ships, but Daniel's fleet had something else. Unity and courage. Daniel weaved his ship between the enemy fire, his hands steady on the controls. Leora managed the shields, redirecting energy where it was most needed, her cheerful voice guiding Daniel through the chaos. Left, Daniel. Now dive. Good. Now aim at their engines, not their guns. Slow them down. The Allied fleet used clever tactics. Small ships darted around, harassing the pirates from all sides. Farmers with outdated craft carried explosives and dropped them like traps. Traders formed protective walls to shield the weaker ships. Every ship had a role, and every role mattered. At one point, a pirate cruiser targeted a defenseless freighter. Daniel and Leora charged in, taking the brunt of the fire. Their shields screamed under the impact, but they held long enough for others to strike back and drive the pirates away. Through the noise and fire, Daniel realized something. He was not alone anymore. The voices of humans and aliens filled the comm channels, calling out warnings, encouragements, and laughter even in the face of danger. It reminded him of Leora's laughter multiplied 100 times. The tide turned. The pirates, expecting easy prey, now faced resistance they could not crush. One of their ships fell, then another. Fear spread among them, and finally the scarred leader, realizing he could not win against united people, ordered retreat. The pirate fleet broke apart and fled into the void. Aftermath silence filled the comm channels for a moment. Then cheers erupted. Humans and aliens together shouted with joy, their voices echoing across the stars. On the surface, the colony celebrated their survival. The governor himself thanked Daniel and Leora, calling them not just heroes but symbols of something greater. You showed us, the governor said, that courage is not only in strength, but in unity, that a cheerful heart can be as powerful as any weapon. You gave us hope. Daniel, usually awkward with praise, simply nodded, but inside he felt something warm and strong. He had not only fought for survival, he had fought for a future worth believing in. A new path in the weeks that followed, other colonies began reaching out. They wanted to form networks of mutual protection. Not armies but alliances of people willing to stand together. And at the heart of this movement, the story of Daniel and Leora was told again and again. Daniel found himself no longer a lonely wanderer. Now wherever he went, people recognized him. But more importantly, they recognized Leora's laughter. Children in markets imitated her cheerful songs. Traders repeated her sayings. Her joy had become a beacon. One evening, as the two sat in their ship, Daniel looked at her with quiet wonder. You've changed everything, Leora. Not just for me. For all of us. She tilted her head, smiling softly. I only did what I was meant to do. I brought cheer. But you, Daniel, you listened. You carried it forward. That is what made the difference, he smiled back. Rare but genuine. Then maybe we make a good team after all. The best team, she laughed. Humanity's light months later, a gathering was held on a neutral station. Leaders from multiple species attended, curious about the growing alliances. Daniel was invited to speak, though he disliked speeches. Leora stood beside him, bright and cheerful as always. Daniel cleared his throat, looked at the crowd, and spoke simply. Humans are new to this galaxy. We don't have the strongest fleets or the grandest cities. But what we do have is the will to learn, to grow, and to stand beside others. We are not here to dominate. We are here to walk together. And if a lonely human and a cheerful alien can find partnership, then perhaps we all can. The hall erupted with applause. Some clapped hands, some clicked mandibles, others used alien sounds of approval. But all carried the same meaning, agreement. Leora leaned close and whispered, See? Humanity shines brightest when it smiles. Daniel chuckled. Maybe you're right. For the first time in many years, he felt not like a stranger in the galaxy, but like a part of it. And he knew it was because of her. The journey continues. As their ship left the station, Leora hummed one of her songs. Daniel, still smiling, joined in clumsily. She laughed at his poor attempt, and he laughed with her. The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of unknowns. But Daniel was no longer afraid of the unknown. With Leora at his side, cheerful and strong, he knew they could face anything. And somewhere deep inside, he realized the greatest truth of all. Humanity's strength was not only in its machines or weapons. It was in its heart. It was in its ability to see others as friends, not tools. And it was in the laughter of a cheerful alien who had given a lonely human hope again.